So, hello, good morning. Welcome to Tenerife, another morning. Today, I'm going to talk about something. I'm going to talk about being a man. so, uh, I When I made the decision to go plant-based, I decided to go. Okay, so I'm going to try this vegan diet. I'm going to try and go on a plant-based diet, and I have friends here and friends in general. And what I started to notice was among some of my male friends was they started to make light-hearted jokes about the fact that maybe maybe I was a little bit feminine now because I was eating a vegan diet. Maybe I would lose my strength. I would become less strong. My muscles would melt away, and they also, incredibly, also questioned my sexual abilities, my virility, I would become less virile. I'd be unable to get an erection. Maybe all these things would happen to me now I was eating plants because obviously in their minds there was a strong attachment to eating meat and being a man. So I thought it would be a good idea today to tackle these issues and try and reassure any men that might be thinking of making the jump that actually you can rest assured it's all going to be fine. I decided to look into it and see what the facts were, and what I discovered first of all was that 80% of vegans are female. So this made me wonder. I thought, okay, why would that be? Why would it be that women are far more likely to become vegan than men? So I thought there's perhaps more to it. Maybe this is a real, genuine reason that men are reluctant to make the switch. That they have this idea that their friends, family, peers will see them as being less of a man. Quite incredible, but cultural and tradition are very, very strong factors in all of our lives. So I decided to look into it. I started by thinking back to my own upbringing. I'm from Sheffield, that's an industrial city in the north of England. And I grew up in a working class family. And believe you me, being vegan is not associated with being a man. In Sheffield, certainly when I grew up, it was more to do with drinking beer, having a job, looking after the family, playing football or watching football. These were the strongly associated with being a man, and to be honest, also eating meat. So all the stereotypes were there, in my own upbringing. But I wanted to discover the truth. Was there any truth to the fact that somehow being on a vegan diet as a man made you weaker or less strong? So I started to do some research, and I found almost straight away that Arnold Schwarzenegger is in fact a vegan. So the Terminator himself is on a plant-based diet. This was reassuring for me. But then I also found that there are some other very, very famous younger bodybuilders who are doing exceptionally well on a vegan diet. And by the time I'd finished looking at these bodybuilders, I was more or less certain that it was clear that you could thrive on a plant-based diet. Strength, muscle, all of these things didn't seem to be an issue. There's also a world record holding German strongman who also featured on the video Game Changers, and he's also achieved such a lot on a purely vegan plant-based diet. So it was obvious from all of these athletes that you could grow muscle, you could be strong, and indeed do a lot better on a plant-based diet. So that myth was dispatched fairly quickly. But what about this idea that somehow by being on a plant-based diet, on a vegan diet, I would be less virile? Somehow it would affect my sexual performance. So I also wanted to find out about that. And it turns out that 40% of all men over the age of 40 in the USA have erectile dysfunction. All of these men, probably to a man, or the vast majority of them are meat eaters. So clearly eating meat is not offering any protection to 40% of men over the age of 40 in the US. So meat obviously wasn't something that was going to protect you from erectile dysfunction. In fact, it's thought that the reason that so many men in the USA have erectile function is because cholesterol and saturated fat, which is only found in meat and dairy, causes the arteries to become blocked. And the arteries in the penis are a lot smaller than the arteries in the heart. So what happens is, the fact that you're having trouble getting an erection means that you've probably already got heart disease. It's not showing itself yet, but that's what it is. So the more I read, the more it became clear that this idea that somehow by eating meat you were more sexually virile was not only wrong, it was also dangerous. So quite quickly I was able to dispel that myth as well. And then I started to wonder about other aspects of being male. I mean, you know, if you think of male role models, surely a man is somebody who protects, who's compassionate, but is strong for the weak, who stands up for the weak and the helpless. Surely those are the traits of a real man. So surely by being vegan and being plant-based, you're sending out a strong message that you're no longer willing to be part of the torture, the suffering and the death of all these helpless sentient creatures. Surely this is a strong characteristic. This is not a characteristic of somebody who's weak. And yet somehow we're led to believe that if you you're vegan or you eat a plant-based diet, somehow you're weak. But it doesn't really make sense. And something else as well. Surely to take the step to going plant-based, to becoming vegan, also needs a certain amount of strength, a certain amount of self-discipline. I mean, after all, we've been eating meat and dairy all our lives. So although it's very possible to make the change, it takes effort, it takes self-discipline and a certain amount of knowing what's right and wrong. Surely these are also the traits of real men. I mean, it's quite ridiculous if you think about it, to think that if you're willing to stand up for the weak and the helpless, and you're prepared to change the habits of a lifetime to show your compassion, that somehow this is a sign of weakness. Doesn't really make sense. So who are the weak ones really? Isn't it really the meat eaters that are the weak ones? Aren't they the ones who lack the self-discipline and the strength to make the change? Aren't they the ones who are more likely to suffer from erectile dysfunction and then later a heart attack? Aren't they the ones that don't possess the self-discipline to actually make a change for what's right and proper and stand up for the weak? So at the end of this, I think it's clear. It's absolutely clear. It's the vegans that are the strong ones. It's the vegans with the self-discipline. It's the vegans with the big erections. And it's the vegans who are going to live long. And it's the vegans that are going to lead the world into a better place. Thank you for being there. See you tomorrow.